Okay, we only have 4 today, which is kind of a relief after the last couple of weeks. And our first one, obviously, is going to be Star Trek Beyond. Which still, Bad Robot and J.J. Abrams is backing it and all that. He hired Simon Pegg to write it, along with another dude. But, obviously, since he's busy with other things, somebody else had to direct this one. Which was a bit concerning, because he kind of established something with those other two. So the question was, it was basically going to be, I think it was going to die down once he finally chose somebody, but the fact that it was up in the air for a long time there, because originally it was going to be Joe Cornish.
Really?
Who did Attack the Block.
That would be great.
Who is awesome, but I don't think I don't think he's directed anything since Attack the Block. But then he dropped out, and they eventually landed on Justin Lin, who did most of the Fast and Furious movies. So you can tell, I was thinking back to when I saw The Prisoner of Azkaban, after Quarren had taken over from Chris Columbus. And it was one of those things where back then I didn't really know much about that stuff in advance. So I didn't know that Quarren had taken over or that they changed over from Chris Columbus to somebody else. But when I saw Prisoner of Azkaban, it was very apparent to me that the director was somebody else. Because you could just tell. And I think if I didn't know that Abrams didn't do this, I think I would have been able to tell just by looking at it.
Yep.
So, well, for starters, I wasn't sure we were going with tone because the very opening scene is a visual gag. And just the way that scene goes, I was kind of wondering, so where are we going to go from here? Because apparently I have an opinion that's not very popular. I wasn't really aware of this until quite recently. Where I'm okay with Abrams' first movie from 2009. I'm fine with it. It had to grow on me, but I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
I love Into Darkness. I really do.
It's very well done.
I like Into Darkness very, very much. Apparently, a lot of people don't see eye to eye with me on that. So going into this, I'm very, I had a very hard time getting into this one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, obviously we're going to go through it, but just kind of just off the top of my head, just thinking about exactly what I just saw, I can't quite put my finger on what it was, but I just had a really hard time getting into it. So, I guess we'll start with the fact that we do have a giant... Well, for starters, going back to when I did that video, what was that, last year?
Mm-hmm.
Where I reviewed the first 6 movies against the Star Wars movies. And what it basically came down to was... Star Trek is known for a lot of things, but I think the main thing that's really appealing about it to the fans, the fan base, is the interaction between the crew and just how they work as a group.
Right.
In general, and all those characters and all their different personalities and just all that stuff working together. Obviously, now that we're very big budget and blockbustery, our latest Star Trek movies are very heavy on the effects and the battles and all that other stuff. And this one definitely falls in line with that. Not a whole lot. It kind of sets up to where there can be a decent amount of crew interaction. But it also kind of sets it up to not do that too, because we get this really giant battle when Idris Elba's people show up and all this. And the scene itself is well done technically. On a technical level, it's well done. However, this eventually leads to the crew splitting up and going in, different areas. We have, Kirk and Chekhov, I think, were in one place. Mm-hmm. And Bones and Spock were in another place. And Uhura's, a prisoner.
Sulu.
And you think, they're... what was he doing? He was out by where the the ship was.
Right.
So, not a lot of room for interaction, because they're split up into twos, or ones. But you would think there would still be, something there. But really, not a lot. I've heard that the movie was getting the reviews were surprisingly really good going into it. And I had heard a lot about how they felt like, they'd really, really done service to the fan base.
Oh, yeah.
When they did this. I don't know, but because I only know the movies, there's probably some stuff. There's probably a lot of stuff that went right by me. That, like, just something really minuscule that would have made a fan, like, really geek out or something. But as far going in with the knowledge that I have, I don't know, there was just kind of a distance that wasn't really, I don't know, it just wasn't gelling. And as far as a villain's concerned, so our villains are kind of half and half, because I thought Cumberbatch was a really good con. I know that's probably controversial too, and I like the way that character was handled within that story. But you go back to the first one, we have Eric Bana. Remember Nero? Mm-hmm. No, not many people do. We have Idris Elba here, totally and completely unrecognizable under makeup. That's a lot of makeup he's under.
Yeah,
you can only give, honest to God, he has a very recognizable voice.
Oh yeah,
we know this, number one, because it's been in 3 animated movies this year, and secondly, just because Idris Elba has a very recognizable voice. But in all honesty, once again, if I had been watching this without that knowledge, I may not have never known that was him until we get to that point in the story. When you know, and you can look for it, you can kind of tell, sometimes in his eyes, and obviously the voice is a dead giveaway if you know, but and here he's got a lot of setup to where he could have been a really, really awesome villain and have, a lot going on with him. But that never really pays off.
No.
Very much. And like I was telling you, it's kind of funny that, it was actually a thought that occurred to me long after the fact. It was, but it was, when I saw Idris Elba in all the makeup, it's very funny, that he plays a major role in the Thor movies. Because with not even thinking about that, my first thought when I saw him in the makeup was, he looks like the villain in a Thor movie.
Yeah.
And it's maybe not even the main villain. He'd be the side villain in a Thor movie. So I feel I know Star Trek has always been kind of, with the exception of Khan, our villains are kind of always underwhelming. Christopher Plummer and Christopher Lloyd, and it's they were fun in those parts, but not exactly a villain. I can't even tell you what Christopher Lloyd's name was in 3, but I don't know. But it's it's a bit of a waste of Idris Elba. If you have Idris Elba, you gotta really use him. You can't fuck around when you got Idris Elba. But this movie finds a way to do so, sadly. There's also a lot of, I don't know, is it weird that Spock's kind of the comedy relief?
Yeah, very much so.
And I know Spock tends to have some particularly funny moments, like The Long Voyage Home. The Long Voyage Home is a John Wayne movie. The Voyage Home, the 4th Star Trek movie. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of comedy in that movie just in general, and I remember Spock being a big part of that. But here, especially since this is they really, really are giving Spock a serious thing going on here with the whole Nimoy thing. Over half of Spock's screen time in this movie is staring off into space, just saying, "I miss Leonard Nimoy."
Yeah.
Or looking at pictures of him. And the other half is him being the comedy relief. That's a very odd balance. And yeah, there are there's a lot of those little comedy lines, and honestly, very few of them hit. And when Simon Pegg's your head writer, I can't say I know what happened. Because it would be... I mean, you would think that that's, like... That would be the pinnacle of this new series. To have Simon Pegg as basically the main writer. Like, it was him, and then it was, like, a co-writer. And that was, like, it. And there's just a whole lot of underwhelming things going on. When you think about it that way. Though they do introduce another character, Jayla, who apparently, yes, he confirmed is in fact named after Jennifer Lawrence. Because he wanted her character to be like, if Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone was in the Star Trek universe, is what he said.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine Simon Pegg watching Winter's Bone and thinking she'd be great in Star Trek.
I can't imagine that.
It's like, I hope Abrams gives me control of a movie one day, because I can totally make that happen. And sure enough, he was also saying how funny it is that that ongoing thing about how the odd-numbered Star Trek movies suck, and Simon Pegg gets strapped with writing an odd-numbered one. That's not true. I think The Search for Spock is a little underrated. But other than that, that's pretty true. So, oh god, what else was going on here? Okay, there is good stuff too. Obviously the characters are still, the actors are still very much into the roles, and when the dynamic's there, it's definitely there. And that's great. But there's also stuff like the end, the climax between Kirk and Idris Elba, where it's like a weird kind of, the gravity is very weird. It's a very one of those, I can't remember that dude's name, but the stair maze thing.
Yeah, it's
like that.
Okay, a good way to describe it. You know the music that they reference in The Cable Guy when they're talking about it. That's what music was running in my head when I was seeing that final fight.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt awkward and strange.
Well, another thing, the thing that was really kept just kind of sticking to me is we have 3 different sets of Star Trek, basically, in regards to movies. There's those 6 with the original crew, and then there is
Next Generation
and all that with Picard.
And then the Generation, which is the bridges the gap.
Yeah, and then the Abrams movies.
Yep.
Though being in the Abrams universe, this felt like one of the later movies in the Generations lineup.
Mm-hmm.
This felt like it would have been like in that Insurrection phase.
This was a 2-hour television episode.
With
really
an extremely large budget.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the writing itself. I still can't believe I'm saying this about a Simon Pegg script, but
it's not all him though. That's the thing.
Like I said, a lot of the comedy lines fall short, but there's also a lot of really cliche dialogue too. There actually is a scene in this movie. It's in a lot of movies, but one jumped out at me immediately. This movie's script lifts a line directly from, get this, Batman Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the scene when Nicole Kidman is chained up on the Riddler's couch and he's got the light up jacket and she says, Batman will come for me, and he gets right in her face and says, I'm counting on it? Her and Idris Elba have that exact dialogue together. It's like, what movie am I watching again? We got Idris Elba looking like a Thor villain, quoting Batman Forever. This is a Star Trek movie 2016, right?
Is this real?
Oh my god. But people seem to really be taking to it.
Yeah.
So good for them. But I was on board after I liked Into Darkness so much.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And apparently it's a real sin to say this movie's underwhelming and I love Into Darkness. It's like, man, if this movie had been more like Into Darkness, I totally would have been into it. Sorry. But yeah, just the whole time I was just not with it.
Right.
The plot's not even that interesting either. It's very, Elba's after that thing that's in that box, and that thing does things, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. The twist is really... Twist, if you want to call it that, is really overcomplicated, too. That seemed almost totally unnecessary. It's really... Yeah, I started to say twist, but that whole other development of Elba's character just seemed... Okay, I guess. I don't know. So yes, just kind of underwhelming all around.
You want to talk about the performances?
Specifically, there's not a lot to say. It's basically more the dynamic. Individually, nobody's really doing anything, but just the way they inhabit the characters in general is fine too. Oh, there was also they added this like there were a couple of things I was wondering what they were going to deal with. Like, the Nimoy thing. Obviously, it's Quinto just looking at a bunch of pictures of him and being sad all the time. And there was also the Sulu controversy.
Yep.
Where it's not controversial in the way you would think it would be.
No?
Simon Pegg was in the writing room and he said, you know what? To pay tribute to George Takei, Sulu's going to be gay in this movie. And it's just a very quick thing of the whole when they're meeting up with the people in the place at the beginning, and Sulu's the guy, and they walk off with his arm around him.
And the guy behind us really reaction to that.
Yeah, that was. They were real calm about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that dude was. Well, where we live, it's not surprising.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure that dude was very uncomfortable for that 2 seconds that was on screen. But no, the controversy stems from the fact that it kind of pissed Takei off.
Big time.
Because he basically said that instead of just making an already existing character gay, if you really want to be progressive, you would have made a new gay character entirely.
Exactly.
I guess I kind of get both sides. I don't think it's too big of a deal one way or the other, but...
It really wasn't it wasn't talked about. It was that one scene, that's it.
Oh, I kind of feel like that it's such a known fact that Takei is gay.
Right.
That if they stayed on it any more than they did with Cho's version of the character, it would have been way overkill. It would have been very much look, we're doing it, see? But the way they did it, I thought was nice because it was there. Agree. It was established, and then just okay, Jonjo Sulu is gay now. That's it.
And nothing else was said the rest of the movie.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, first off, how do you introduce that in a movie like this?
Yeah.
So it was like, is he just going to start hitting on dudes? What's going to happen?
That wouldn't work in the Star Trek universe.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, how are they going to do it? But yeah, it's just a really small thing just kind of in there, and it's... The character's established now.
And that's it. And then nothing was said the rest of the movie.
And then it's like, is his voice going to get a little higher pitched than it was in the other two movies? What's going to happen? I don't know.
Nothing was different.
Yeah. So he didn't like I said, his performance didn't even change.
No, not at all.
Just what the hell is? Oh, okay. I'm lost in my notes now. So that's about it. There's really not a whole lot to say about it.
There's a nice tribute at the end to both Leonard Nimoy and Anton Yelchin.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were gonna. Yeah, they kind of switched it up a little bit too, so it's not like this person, and this person. The way it's worded, it feels very individual to them.
Agreed.
So I thought that was nice. Okay. Our second movie, that is so sour.
That's what happens, man.
Our second movie is Lights Out. A movie that I guess James Wan's pulling an Eli Roth. I get James Wan's name is on this movie as a producer.
That's it.
So they're gonna put that in all the advertisements, and now everybody in the world thinks James Wan did this movie. Oh, when will people learn?
This director, this is his debut as a major.
He did that. He did the
short for this movie. Yeah.
That was basically it was literally just a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, basically.
I think it was like for some contest or something. And lo and behold, Warner Brothers gave him an entire movie based on a 3-minute short. Oh,
that happened.
Yeah.
More power to him.
Sometimes it's that easy. Well, here's the thing, though, is First off, honestly, I probably would not have thought about this because the movie is such a distant memory. It wasn't until somebody brought it up. Yeah, the concept is somewhat Darkness Falls.
Yeah.
Remember that Tooth Fairy movie from like 2002 that everybody hated?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody came out of that movie happy.
This is true.
Oh no, this is still an intriguing concept though. That may or may not divert from the rules quite a bit. Like most horror concepts do, but we do have this really effective opening with Billy Burke. Billy Burke is our opening kill. And at first I was a little put off because one of the very first things we see when the movie opens is just mannequins with plastic over them. It's like, yes, we are well aware that mannequins are creepy. Just how cheap are you gonna be? Without, I mean, I know this stems from a 3-minute YouTube video, but still, just how easy are you going to make the creepiness of this? But they went beyond mannequins, thankfully. They bring the mannequins back for no reason, but that's just a little bit. It does actually turn into an effective scene, though. There's a nice use of misdirection, too, where you think the threat's coming from one place and then it comes from another. Was done nicely.
Yeah.
And the use of the concept as well, like the very short scene. I think the woman in that opening scene, his like assistant or whoever she was the woman from the short.
You are correct.
Yes. So that's a nice little creepy scene where you don't know how many times she's gonna flip the light switch until something happens.
It's in the trailer, but there's a little bit more to it.
Okay, that's nice. And then there's the place he goes where there's like the lights and it's like 3 or 4 circles of light and then just darkness all around.
It's basically like a warehouse is what it looks like.
Yeah. So I thought that was it's a really good scene to introduce the whole concept of the thing. And then we go on and then it turns into the whole, somebody gets onto usually a kid. The ghost has a backstory. There's a climax at a house. And the score and the sound effects are very, very loud.
Yes.
Well, for starters, it's nice that, Teresa Palmer is our lead, who must have been relieved that she got a leading role regardless of what the movie was.
Yeah. Because
she can be a really strong actress. And it seems like most of the time she shows up in movies for like 3 minutes with useless roles. But when she's like front and center, she can really do something with it, even if it's a movie like this, which she continues to prove with this movie. And our introduction to her is with her boyfriend, and they have kind of a scene and stuff, and they do all the romance stuff and stuff like that. You can kind of loosely use the word romance the way they talk about it, and that was another pleasant surprise as well. This is like the best boyfriend character we've had in a horror movie since I don't know when. This dude is like not one-dimensional at all. It was really refreshing, this dude. I don't know his real name or his character's name.
His name is Brett.
Yes, I was just about to say it. I was like, wait a minute, I think his name is Brett.
Alexander Persia.
Yeah, I kind of like that guy.
He's not bad. He's a good actor. He reminds me of something I'd see in an indie movie.
So, yeah, the fact that we don't have an annoying couple at the center of this movie is a very good start. The kid's not annoying either.
No. The
kid doesn't scream a lot. Occasionally he'll call out her name when she fucking abandons him in the haunted house. Yeah, like the great sister she proves to be. No, so we're kind of diverting mostly from that. And then we have Maria Bello as the crazy mom that may or may not have a lot to do with why this ghost is doing what it's doing. This movie continues a trend with Maria Bello that just continues to frustrate me. And as an actress, I have no idea how to gauge her. Mm-hmm. Like, I really am not sure, because you look back at, like, A History of Violence, or The Cooler, or Downloading Nancy. And you can throw this in there, too. I'm really not sure how to take her as an actress. Because there are some times where it's like, she's doing something that could be really great. But then other times, she can really, really overdo it. And most of her performances are like this. And so I'm never really quite sure what I think of her when I see her in something. But it's mostly really good movies she shows up in. So that's another thing that makes it kind of hard to gauge. And so, yeah, that's what she does here. Like, there's some scenes where it's like, this might be some really good stuff she's doing here, but then she'll do something and it's like, whoa, just slow down. Take it down a couple notches. Even when you're playing crazy, you might want to take it down just a couple of notches sometimes. Right. So yes, there's another thing this movie, like I said, I really like the way it's diverting from some things. There is it's very much guilty once it moves on. But one scene at the beginning shows this movie telling exposition to kiss its ass.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't know... We've just met Teresa Palmer. We don't know much about her yet, except that this is her brother, this kid. So she goes to the school because he's in trouble for falling asleep. Because he is, terrorized in the night. Mm-hmm. Just like The Darkness from like a month or two ago.
Oh god, yeah.
It was giving me vibes of this. And Teresa Palmer runs in and she's like, yeah, I'm a sister. Well, I'm a sister, but we have different dads. You see, my dad left me, and the woman just cuts her off and says, let's just stick to the kid, please. I kind of like how there was it probably wasn't intentional, mm-hmm. but I almost want to believe it was something along the lines of, let's act like we're going to do exposition and then tell exposition to kiss our ass. Because in any other movie, she would have told us her whole life story before we moved on. So, unless that woman cut her off. So, that was kind of refreshing, too. And the ghost itself is creepy, yeah. Yeah. The fingers, that's fucked up.
Carving her name.
The scratching is a really good, like I said, the sound is mostly overbearing, much like the score, as usual. Right. But that scratching sound is really...
It's unnerving.
Yeah. And I really like that moment towards the beginning when the kid goes back into his room and he's sitting in bed and he senses that the ghost is outside. And the scratch starts at the top of the door and just the sound, we don't see anything, but the sound of the scratch goes all the way down the door until it gets to the knob and then the knob starts moving. That was a really...
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah. She might as well have been doing that right down our backs.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also a very brief but effective scene in regards to her very... I think it was Teresa Palmer, but in all honesty, I have no idea who the kid was in that flashback. It was either Maria Bella or Teresa Palmer. The drawing.
There's young cast members on this.
I thought that was kind of there's actually some stuff in this movie where it doesn't have to be like terrifying or like really, really get you. Just kind of, just some stuff that'll creep you out a little, and that's really all you need sometimes. And I thought that scene did that pretty well. However, to balance out with some of this stuff, this decent stuff, there's your typical stuff here, like I was talking about. It's very loud, very, very similar layout. There's always that moment where the ghost is creepy when it's a total and complete unknown entity type. But we always get the damn backstory. Sometimes. I mean, I was kind of on board with it here because they did it early enough. Like, usually it's like the whole movie is like being terrorized by something unknown, and that's what makes it creepy. And then towards the very end, they're like, a character actor walks into the movie, and they're like, well, this is why, and this backstory, and all this shit. And then there's a climax. We get the backstory early enough to where it's not as annoying as it usually is.
It's pretty good, though, because it seemed kind of original. Just a little bit.
But then I was getting some House on Haunted Hill vibes.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then, like I was saying, like with her just kind of occasionally, you know, she's there to protect him and she knows this and she's all about it. But then just there will be times where it's like, well, you know, I'm aware that this ghost will rip us apart if we're left in the dark. And it's pretty much after us. Like, it wants to kill us.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to be back. I'm going to go to the basement. Here's one candle. I'll be back.
Yeah, a lot of stupidity in this movie.
There are multiple scenes where people, already knowing the concept, will just willingly walk into the dark. Like, they totally forget what movie they're in. And it's like, yeah, this is absolutely terrifying. Like, if I'm in the dark whatsoever, I will be mauled.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know exactly what she's doing. Like, the look of Billy Burke, it's like she took a piece of paper and just wadded it up and threw it down. Yeah. We're not sure what the fuck she's doing.
She likes taking people's eyes, too.
Yeah, that happened, like,
twice.
Not all the time.
Only twice. It was her. And
speaking of not all the time, that's what I was talking about, where the concept is nice and everything, but it's very flexible.
Yeah.
Because we learned with Billy Burke in that scene that it was kind of humorous to me. I think it was supposed to kind of be to break the tension a little bit while the scene is escalating. When the lights kind of go out and he's just in his little office. And the lights kind of flicker, and then they just kind of shut off.
Oh, man.
He's like, oh, come on, don't do this now. Which I think, and the whole flickering thing is an ongoing thing. Yeah. So I guess we're supposed to assume that she can make the lights go out whenever she wants to.
Yeah.
That doesn't hold up throughout the movie, does it?
Not really.
Because that kind of backs up the idea of, I heard some complaints about the concept, like when the first trailer came out, where people were saying, like, just leave the lights on. But that's put to rest when she can do whatever the fuck she wants with the lights. So then they do stuff like the poster, they tape up the light switches.
Yep.
It's like, that's all well and good, but she can still just make the lights whenever she pleases, apparently. Apparently the lights go out in the whole block during the climax.
Yeah.
Not sure how she pulled that one off.
I honestly think it was a power outage, and she basically, she just got lucky.
Okay.
Because basically they got trapped in the basement, and she was like, it's a distraction, it's a trick, and the next thing you know, the door slams shut, and they're stuck in the basement.
Yeah, so that makes it sound like she turned the lights off.
She could have, but...
Teresa Palmer got to that conclusion pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what... Okay, so if I make all the lights go out, they're not going to panic, they're not going to, do anything. They're going to go down in the basement, and they're going to, do the whole fuse box thing that they don't know how to do. I'm just going to stand at the top of the steps, I'm going to wait for her to say, oh no, it's a trap, and then shut the door dramatically.
I do like the black light.
Oh, how it's not fully effective.
Yeah.
And you can, they basically use it to see her.
It's a good spot in the trailer.
They do that, too, with, when she's getting shot at.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, number one, I don't know what it would do if the bullets could hit her, but the problem is the bullets can't hit her because the flash from the gun makes her go away before the bullets can hit her. I think that's kind of cool, but when you think about it, it's like, I don't think bullets would do anything to her anyway.
No, probably not.
So, okay. But anyway, they do utilize the concept well enough. And it's certainly, when you look at the horror lineup we typically have, it's not bad.
No. It's
definitely not bad from a first-time director, either. Like, that guy shows promise. So, I don't think, he didn't work on the writing or anything, did he?
As far as I know, no.
So... Yeah, I would say, as long as he wasn't a writer, like if he was just the director, okay, then I think this guy has promise then. So...
The screenplay was from the writer of... Oh, it makes sense. Final Destination 5 and The Thing remake.
Oh, shit. Well, needless to say...
He's writing Van Helsing, too.
Well, needless to say, the director did pretty well with what he had to work with.
Right, I agree with that.
And like I said, going from that short and expanding it,
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's fine. And there's also, it's really damn short.
Oh, yeah.
It's really short, which is another thing that sometimes it could not be good for a movie, but other times it's like, yeah, you didn't try to drag it out. So being nice and short, that can be a good thing, and in this case, it is, so...
I do like the fact, I know this wasn't done on purpose, but it's always funny because we get the comparison. We've had the comparison in the past to Teresa Palmer and Kristen Stewart, and it's funny, she's starting with Billy Burke in the movie.
I was thinking about that, yeah.
And I want to mention something, go back to the Star Trek review because I completely forgot about it. You do realize that, like, the Beastie Boys are basically doing the Ghostbusters thing in the movie.
That was, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that got
mentioned. Now that you brought that up, I just realized there's like 3 other things I wanted to bring up about Star Trek, and I didn't. But oh well. Okay, we're long past it now.
Yep.
They were negative, so you probably don't want to hear them anymore.
Of course they were.
Our third movie is going to be Ice Age: Collision Course. No, this is not related to the Crocodile Hunter movie. I'm sorry.
I wish it were.
Or the Jay Leno movie with Pat Morita. This is Ice Age 5.
Good God.
There are a lot of these. So, going back to the first one was about 2001.
Oh God, it was that long, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like, I remember it being close to Monsters Inc.
Yep.
So, okay. I don't remember a whole lot about Continental Drift. Like, we were getting these characters, and I couldn't remember when we met them, or if we're meeting them for the first time. That's a great sign, isn't it? I do remember Buck was introduced in Dawn of the Dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he was in Continental Drift. I think this is his first return.
I don't think so.
But I cannot be sure because, like I said, I don't remember much of anything about Continental Drift, except that Peter Dinklage was that monkey, or whatever he was.
Yes.
That got eaten by the sirens. Okay, so the first thing I noticed immediately, obviously, was this whole opening scene when... well, first off, apparently there is what's the fucking word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
A misconception that this movie takes place in space. It's only the scrap portions that do, in case you were wondering. I know the poster's very misleading, the poster I saw. Yeah. I know there's a bunch of them, but I think the ones they're really using are the ones of Scrat in space.
Mm-hmm. Why don't they just give him his own movie after now? Come on.
So, well, speaking of Scrat just by himself, I couldn't help but notice that when Scrat is in his little spaceship, and he comes up, and he basically builds the solar system by accident. That was a short, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Like, a year or 2 ago?
Pretty sure it was.
Was it always the idea that short would be the beginning of a new Ice Age movie? Or was there a lot of desperation here? And they were like, let's just take that short and then tag a movie onto it.
I think they know how much Scrat is over with the crowd, so that's the reason why they want to use him as much as they can.
Well...
He's got minion syndrome in this movie.
Well, he's been... Scrat's been played out for a long time. Right?
It took a while to...
So, I can't read these notes.
Oh, that's good.
I'm gonna wing it.
I've got notes of the movie, so you're good.
Obviously, the plot of this one, you would think there would be a lot more interesting things going on, because this movie is basically about the apocalypse.
Yep.
Because, obviously, since the very first movie, basically the whole joke, the underlying joke throughout the whole thing is, we know that all these lovable characters that we're going to know and love and have the celebrity voices and the great personalities and I'll do all the funny things, they are all doomed.
Yeah. There's no way around it.
We've been building up to that for 5 movies.
Yep.
And they're all still alive. There is a poor little iguana chameleon thing that disintegrates towards the end. That poor little guy. But apart from that, but yes, the apocalypse is finally coming. A giant meteor is coming. Like a whole bunch of them, actually. So the plan is just to basically walk away. I don't know where they're going. I don't think they know where they're going. Just like, yeah, we just gotta be somewhere else. And they just go with that.
Yeah.
Voila, we have a 5th Ice Age movie. And we have this character, like I said, I can't remember who we met in Continental Drift and who is new. I think Keke Palmer was introduced in... Was that 3 or 4? I don't know.
I don't know these names at all anymore. That sounds right.
She is the daughter of Ray Romano and Queen Latifah's Mammoths.
Yes.
And she has a boyfriend now. Once again, not sure if we met him in Continental Drift or not.
He's new. He's totally new.
He's new, okay.
Because he wasn't, like, big back then, so yeah.
It's only 2012, for God's sake. That was the same year as Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, I do not like this guy. I do not at all.
So he's another mammoth, only he's a darker color. And he is the... It's 2016. And still, we have the daughter's boyfriend character being the dude guy. In 2016.
Yeah. I don't want to hear the word
It's
bro dad
like-
ever again after this.
He is basically, going back to 2012 again, Andy Samberg in Hotel Transylvania was this guy. But that was fine, I guess. Not at first, but it grew on me. Much like Andy Samberg himself. And then I also had a flashback to that guy in the Fresh Prince episode that Ashley brought home. When, he gives Uncle Phil the card and he's like, "That's my name. It's a symbol." And then Uncle Phil scares him out of the house and she's like, "Daddy, I love him." It's like he's basically that guy too.
Pretty much.
And yeah, he wants to marry.
Pauly Shore and son-in-law.
He's Pauly Shore in a lot of movies.
Yes.
He's also Pauly Shore in Encino Man.
Yes.
And the other really popular Pauly Shore movies.
In the Army Now?
Yes.
Which will come to Versus one of these days.
And Biodome. Don't forget Biodome.
Yeah, don't forget Pauly Shore will come to Versus one of these days. You look at me.
So, and then it just kind of goes, and you're like, well... But then there are 2 saving graces here. 2 saving graces that almost save the movie entirely. Starting with, Sid. John Leguizamo doing the voice of Sid. 5 movies in, I am pretty positive now. Like, I was always kind of sure, but I'm pretty positive now. Sid will never not be funny.
No, I agree.
Sid is way too lovable to get old.
It's a good year for sloths.
Yeah, and John Leguizamo.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, he's still just as great as he always was. And also the return of Buck. I gotta be honest with you, I did not know Buck was returning from this movie. I thought he was strictly a Dawn of the Dinosaurs character. No, the first time we see him, we see his silhouette showering. And there he is in all his glory. I was like, oh, we're getting a Simon Pegg double feature tonight. I totally forgot. And holy shit, Buck's first scene is spectacular. Buck gets a really, really elaborate musical number that is fantastic. I really love that scene, and it gave me really high hopes for the rest of the movie that didn't pay off.
Well, yeah.
But he's still really funny throughout the movie.
Absolutely.
He's got some stuff that falls flat, but for the most part, so like I said, the combination of Sid and Buck together almost completely and totally saved the movie. It was actually one of those cases where I actually was into the movie for most of its runtime because of them. It was only kind of in the last 20 minutes I was like, oh, never mind. But no, they really, really bring a lot to this. And they bring it to... Because this series has basically been going down the line. Because I remember... I haven't seen it in maybe a decade, if not longer. But I really loved the first one when it came out. I was 10, but I loved it. And then, it was 5 years before The Meltdown came out. And I thought The Meltdown was great. I haven't seen it since then, I don't think, but I just remember really liking it a lot and thinking it was I remember liking the first one, but the Meltdown was like a really big step up too. And Dawn of the Dinosaurs was fine, and then Continental Drift not so much, and now we're just kind of, it's kind of, nah.
Critics don't like this either, so.
Oh, that's not surprising.
No, not at all.
So yeah, and then there's obviously, there's a lot of things in here that don't work, obviously. And there are some things that are quite confusing. Like, for instance, the modern jokes.
Yeah.
Like, there are very interesting, what was that movie? Was it the Sword in the Stone?
Maybe.
There is a somewhat classic Disney movie that's got, like, a lot of modern references in it. I was thinking that might be it.
Sounds right. I haven't seen it in years.
And then there's that really, fucked up Prince and the Pauper movie or whatever, that threw modern references. This is kind of doing that, but in not very charming ways. For starters, because I know it's an animated movie, and it's an Ice Age movie, it's supposed to be silly and all that. But sometimes you just kind of want a movie to kind of, stand its ground a little bit, in regards to the fact that the whole thing is, the movie's called Ice Age. It is set in the time of mammoths. And there's dinosaurs still hanging around. And then there are lines like, Sid is with a girl that he's, like, in love with after 10 minutes. And she's, put off by him because she thinks he's ugly. And her response to that is because that, he doesn't look like he did in his profile picture. So, like, I get it. Especially if they were going to do, like, some kind of Ice Age time reference to said thing.
Mm.
But they just leave it at that line. And we're left to wonder in what way Sid has a profile picture. On what? Taken with what?
They're cave drawings. It's actually mentioned in the movie later on, so I don't know how they even have a profile picture. Was it on the wall somewhere? Some sort of stone wall? It's like, here.
It's like wanted posters. It's like...
She went to the wrong place to look at the wrong pictures, so there you go.
It's like wanted sloth booty, and he just drew a picture of himself. I don't know.
Scream real loud.
Then there is, okay, there's a joke where they kind of try to play with it, with the hashtag thing.
Mm.
Where somebody says hashtag, and then I think it's Sid actually says, what is that? And they kind of create the word in the Ice Age. The word has been around for less than a few years.
They created Paying for the Wedding, too.
Yeah.
At the very end.
And then there's some song lyrics in there that people quote. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. I just don't do that. And then there's stuff like, there's a dick joke.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. Mainly just by Sid's reaction. It's the whole thing where there's this really weird plot in the middle that is totally pointless, and I have no idea what its purpose is. Where Buck basically decides he's going to raise a pumpkin as if it's his baby. This is an ongoing thing for the rest of the movie once it's introduced. There's even a point in time where he's talking to the birds. And he's saying, yes, as a father. And he's referring to the pumpkin. I have no idea what that is. But anyway, obviously the pumpkin has a stem. And he keeps referring to the pumpkin as she. And Sid says, how do you know it's a she? And the stem just breaks off. And Sid is like, oh, that's why. It's like, oh, okay, there's a dick joke in Ice Age 5. That's...
Gotta do something for the bored parents.
I guess. I don't know. And then there's the whole thing with the Fountain of Youth, and there's the thing with magnetic rocks.
Geotopia in the same year as Zootopia.
They were winging it hardcore.
Big time.
They didn't know what the fuck they wanted to do.
They got real high and they just got a pen out.
Yeah, and they tried to cover it up by saying, we'll just introduce a character that seems like he's high. Shangri-Lama was very much like Chong's character in Zootopia.
There's a lot of Zootopia.
Who was doing the voice of
Jesse
Shangri-Lama?
Tyler Ferguson.
with Shangri-La.
I thought you marked out for that. As I looked over and I saw you like get excited when you heard his voice.
I knew it, but I couldn't pinpoint it.
I did that with a lot of the voice cast in this movie, especially Jessie J. That was not what was jumping in my mind when until I heard her sing.
Because why else would it have been her? Unless there was going to be...
Well, yeah, but...
Oh, that's the thing. I couldn't identify her because I'm really not familiar with her. I think she's the one that can, like, sing with her mouth closed. She did that on Grandma or something. But, like, I didn't know who was playing the girl sloth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the end and she starts... This is another one of those animated movies.
Where it has to end with a song.
They just have to fucking dance no matter what.
Singing and dancing for no reason.
Yes. Every fucking animated movie ends that way.
Yep.
I know it's been that way forever, but it seems to have, like, quite an increase lately.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wasn't sure who was doing the girl sloth's voice through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second we get to the end and she whips out a microphone and starts singing, I was like, oh, it's probably some modern singer I don't care about. And sure enough, it's like...
Oh, you mean like
Shakira?
Shakira?
Yes, in Zootopia.
Good God, there's so much Zootopia in this movie. Travis will hate this movie on principle alone.
So, there is a direct quote. I don't know if you'd call it a joke, but it's definitely a direct quote from Freaky Friday.
Mm-hmm.
With the, what are those things that Josh Peck and Sean William Scott are?
According to this, they're opossums.
Okay. They quote Freaky Friday. Remember the scene when, Jamie Lee Curtis says, "You just suck the fun out of everything. Fun sucker." Word for word.
Yeah.
Word for fucking word in this movie. Oh. And there are some things... There's a scene in this movie that might be terrifying to children. Because it was kind of terrifying to me. I know it's supposed to be funny with Scrat doing his bouncing off the walls thing.
Mm-hmm. No.
But then we're introduced to the magnets thing. And like I said, it's just played in there for like lighthearted laughs. Supposedly. He gets on the ship, and then he's like magnetized to the ground. And it's a really powerful magnet. And he's like... And
I know where you're going.
He's trying to drag himself around.
Yeah.
And then it just pulls his skin off. And he's a skeleton for a second. And then he gets back into his skin. And then he keeps crawling. And he opens his mouth. And all of his teeth are ripped out of his mouth. And stick into the ground. And then his face is slammed into it. And they're just jammed back up in there. It was like, where was that goofy slapstick a second ago? Now he's having his teeth ripped out and jammed back in there, and having his skin ripped off. Where did we go?
It turned into Itchy and Scratchy is what it did.
That felt very out of place.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like I get that kind of humor is in a lot of, kids' movies,
Mm-hmm.
and it's mostly very slapsticky and goofy.
Not this time.
It's like Marv getting electrocuted in Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
It's like that is just terrifying.
Go back and watch that movie again and tell me what things could actually have killed a person. There's a list on the internet.
Everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, did I miss anything?
Neil deGrasse Tyson. You have to bring this up. I mean, come on.
You mean the most played out human being on the face of the earth?
I'm sure he's a nice guy. A
I
friend of
actually-
mine is related to him. So.
I hear not.
Oh, my friend, that's his father-in-law, so that's the reason why. I know that side of Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I mean, obviously I can't judge because I don't know the dude, but I've heard stories that... I've heard stories that dude's a fucking dick. I don't know. Like I said, I can't prove that. That's just what I heard, but... I hear he's very, very, very full of himself. I think that's the issue.
Mm.
And yes, that's just it's fucking tired.
It felt tacked on, too.
I guess, it's great when you do your science shows and shit, but your cameos and shit...
In an animated movie.
End it now. It's kind of like, it's like a really bad version of when they put Werner Herzog in, Penguins of Madagascar.
Yes.
So, okay. You mean, yeah, the movie, the animated movie, where they got Werner Herzog to voice the documentarian that looks like Herzog, but is not Herzog in the movie. He has a different name.
He has a different. Tyson has a different name in the movie too.
Yeah, it's fucking. He's a weasel.
Neil DeBuck Weasel. Stop.
Is here.
It's over
now.
Speaking of, it's over. it's going downhill from here.
I don't even know how I want to do this.
Let me put it
Our
this.
last movie is Hillary's America. Whatever that long subtitle nobody cares about is.
Chasing America, something like that.
That dude that made 2016 Obama's America, and then a couple years later made that America documentary that I reviewed.
Yep.
I think it came out with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I want to say.
Sounds like it. That video exists. You want to check that out here on the
where it was about, what would happen if, George Washington was killed in war and then America never happened or something.
Such a weird, history lesson, too.
That dude has been unleashed from prison and gave us this anti-Hillary Clinton movie amidst this political season. Just political outlooks aside, this whole review is about how bad this guy is at what he does, and anything he sets his mind to. It's just a waste of life and a complete and total just burning building of shit. While watching this, well, first off, I wasn't even going to. I was actually going to say,
could have told me that.
Let's just not. Let's just really not.
I would have been up for that.
But then the idea of doing a review that just tells people just how outlandish it is, because nobody's going to watch it that has any fucking brain. And they're just going to... And just to tell you what happens in it, just to see if you can believe it. So we just went ahead with it. There were about 3 times where I was just going to leave. I was going to say, you know what? Let's just go.
I would have again been down with that.
And I have... My notes are 3 pages long. And I'm on 2 hours of sleep. I don't even know if I want to do this review, but since I watched the thing and I took 3 pages of notes, whatever. So, we begin, and I remember America started with him telling us how successful 2016 was. Because a lot of people showed up and then realized that he was just pulling whatever shit out of his ass he could possibly reach. And then America made $2.
Yeah.
And then there's this. The movie begins with him, and here's the thing. We start off with what could be real-life court footage, or could be court footage that he reenacted extremely exaggerated. I can't really tell. It doesn't matter. But what he wants us to believe is that Obama was so threatened by his movie that Obama's people had him put in jail. And he makes it this big ordeal. It's all shots of him. Remember, if you remember my review of America, this guy loves nothing more than to film himself doing shit. So, we get shots of him just looking very, very, just very much a victim in this horrible case. Just looking down and just really standing his ground and going, I'm such a victim. I am being brought down by the powers that be. And all this. And we see this horrible, terrible place he was put in. If my research is correct, was he not put in, the absolute most, it's basically the portion of jail where you're living the good life.
Oh, white-collar prison?
Yeah.
Basically.
Where he's basically he's basically behind a chain link fence with a few dudes and gets access to pretty much anything he wants. He might as well not even be. He might as well be in a confined motel every now and then being given shit.
Basically.
That's really all it is. So he's telling us the really horrible things he faced in this horrible, terrible place. I think, yeah, you get it. So, and the movie begins, just so we know, the terror he's been through is very much real. The words, "this is a true story," not based on a true story, not loosely based on fact. The words, "this is a true story," just flat out. So once he's in this jail, he is locked up here with, I don't know what white-collar jail he was in, because apparently he was shacked up with a gangster murderer. You know those dudes with the tattoos and the bandanas that are like gang leaders that have snitches popped?
Excited about pat downs.
Yeah. Whatever the fuck that was.
That was bizarre.
And it's very, obviously, like everything he does, it's clear that everything is exaggerated beyond belief.
He got passed around for cigarettes, that's positive.
He says that.
I know he did.
Or was that you saying that to me? Or was it him saying
that
it?
was me saying that to you,
Okay.
and you were like, yeah, that makes sense.
But it was so outlandish, I just thought for a second that he actually told us that.
I got passed around for cigarettes.
I would love to have heard him say that so much.
I would have too. I know who the tossed salad man is now.
And it just would have been a close-up of his face just looking so victimized.
With one tear going down his cheek, of course.
And that tear is red, white, and blue, you better believe it.
Yeah, fireworks in the background.
Oh, we'll get to that bullshit.
I know we will.
Okay. So, no, wait a minute. What am I saying? He's still on. Okay, America doesn't exist in time. Remember how I said America started and he was like, I made that 2016 movie. And it made so much money. I am such a success. He's still on that bullshit for this movie. Because it starts off with, remember when I made all those predictions about Obama? And remember when I was right? I was like, no, I don't remember when you were right, but you're gonna ramble something that's completely out of your ass to tell me how right you were.
Right.
I just have to take your word for it that you were right. Okay. So anyway, we meet his little prison buddy, this bandana tattoo poppin' snitches guy named Rock.
Rock is amazing.
And Rock is a guy that we should listen to. A confessed murderer, gangster type guy. The Democratic Party is so bad, we need to listen to what this guy says. Because he is the guy we should be following. The murderer, the confessed murderer who is currently in prison, is the guy we need to be listening to and taking the advice of. Because that's what this guy did when he made this movie. Okay, so what Rock tells us is that his method for his crimes is the exact same thing as what the Democratic Party does. Same thing. Absolutely, positively same thing as tattooed gangster guy. By the way, this is one of those guys where if he's not stereotypical enough, we get to see him on the outside too. There's a reenactment of how he got his people together to work for him, his gang. Here's what he does. He goes to a convenience store. Outside this convenience store, you better believe is populated by lowriders and those bouncing cars. Swear to God.
Yeah.
So he goes in the convenience store, he stands in a corner, he says, all right, listen up! And like 20 people materialize. And that's his gang. And they went out and they fucking murdered people. That's what they did. This guy is who we gotta listen to, according to the guy that made this movie.
Oh, it gets
This
better.
is the guy that's got all the ideas. We
play
play chess with him, and we listen to him. And we will know exactly all we need to know about the Democratic Party. Not everything. No. We gotta go back in history for that stuff.
Oh my god.
So, we gotta go back so that Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party do not, in quotes, steal America. How many times did he say that throughout the movie? There are like 20 times I say where he's that's what he does. He has no idea what the fuck he's even saying anymore. He just repeats the same phrases over and over again. Hillary Clinton is going to steal America. And he just says that periodically throughout the movie when he runs out of shit to pull out of his ass.
Pretty much.
So, and this rambling is just, he just goes on and on and on. And his documentary style isn't the same way. We don't know where he's going to end up, and he doesn't know where he's going to end up. At some point, we're talking about Rock, and how he's the gangster guy that knows all that's going on, because he's a murderer, who befriended the guy that made this movie. And then we go into...
how he got busted.
well, there's that. But then we go into all the racist presidents from the Democratic Party.
Yep.
There's Andrew Jackson and Woodrow Wilson. At some point, all of this has to do with Al Capone.
I don't get that at all. You looked at me too, you're like, what does this have to do with anything?
All of this stuff has reenactments, by the way.
Oh my god, I hate these reenactments.
And it makes you
so
wonder.
much.
It makes you wonder. There are a lot of actors in this movie because every damn thing we see is reenacted.
Right.
Because the dude has no real footage to work with. He has nothing to base his bullshit on. So it's all reenactments that he has directed. With a lot of actors in them. So it makes you question, do all these actors believe in his bullshit? Or are these really, really desperate actors that need a place to sleep at night and food to put on the table? Because I cannot imagine that as many actors are in this movie is as a number of people that would actually believe what this guy says. I don't know. The moral of the story is that in the 1800s, the Democratic Party was racist. Very, very, very racist. Because it was the 1800s, but ignore that. It's not because they were in the 1800s. It's because they were the Democratic Party that they were racist. Which means that today, in 2016, the same rules apply. The Democratic Party is going to be racist.
Okay. Continue to give me your
know.
rhetoric.
Because, the other guy, not racist at all.
Not referenced at all in the movie. His name was never once mentioned in the movie.
No, but
I know
don't
what you're
vote for
trying to
Hillary,
say.
vote for the other person is exactly what he says. He doesn't say a name, but he says, don't vote for here, vote for there.
I think he made the movie before when there was an actual doubt that wasn't going to happen, so he was probably going to say vote for a Republican. But I don't know who.
So anyway, but to tell you where his priorities are, get this. All these different things he wants to touch on, we gotta start somewhere, right? Okay, so, Democratic Party's a bunch of racists, and they need to be stopped. Hillary needs to be stopped. Everybody needs to be stopped. There's people from the 1800s need to be stopped.
He needs to be stopped.
So he's walking around, he's just filming himself looking at things and studying things. He films himself stroking his chin as he stares at walls.
He's one step from being a YouTuber.
I swear to God. He's worse.
I've seen YouTubers that like this.
So he's walking around these Democratic offices, and what's he find? A picture of Lincoln. And so he's like,
what's this doing here?
but he's so into it. Like, he wants so badly for you to feel like he's onto something the way he talks.
Right.
So he walks up to a picture of Lincoln in Democratic offices, and his narration goes exactly this. These are the exact words. A picture, and this exact delivery too. Like I'm possessing, he's possessing me right now as I say this. This is exactly what it sounds like. A picture of Lincoln in the Democratic offices? But Lincoln was part of the Republican Party. We need to get to the bottom of this.
You just turned into Tim Roth right there, by the way. A picture of Lincoln?
In the stable?
That's what came to mind when you were saying that.
Well, last I heard, somebody had a letter from Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that.
If he would have said that, I would have immediately been like, yes.
Oh, God. So he goes into the basement, he digs into a bunch of boxes, trying to figure out why a picture of Lincoln's in there.
He's on probation. I'm going to say that a lot in this review.
I got really lightheaded doing an impression of him. Tim Roth or him, I don't know.
It'll work either.
One of them fucked me up just now.
We'll not say Tim Roth then.
So there's all this stuff. I think I need to go ahead and turn over now. Oh no, let it be known that he is a scholar. The guy that made this movie is a scholar. Do you know how I know this?
Because he
says, so. I just want you all to know, I'm a scholar. I know what I'm talking about. I think that's an exact quote. So, because this is right in the whole, let's investigate why there's a picture of Lincoln here. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to the Andrew Jackson stuff. Because Andrew Jackson, basically founded this.
Right.
So, everybody that's ever been a part of the Democratic Party might as well be Andrew Jackson, is what the point he's trying to make is. So, we reenact scenes with Andrew Jackson, and he is Edwin Epps.
Yeah.
He is Michael Fassbender in 12 Years a Slave.
Big time.
The end. There is nothing else whatsoever to Andrew Jackson. He was basically just a slave owner, is what this movie tells us. And that's how it's depicted. But let's move on to the other president they wanted to call out. Let's jump ahead in time to Woodrow Wilson. You're probably not going to believe me when I say this, but I swear to God it's true. This is the thing that happened when you were outside. Because you came back in and I was like, dude, something just happened.
Okay, I'm very intrigued about
this. And I can't explain it.
You're about to.
And you're never going to believe me. I felt like I was the only person that saw it. Because there were two other people in there. Two, God knows how impressionable people were in there. That paid for this and stayed for the whole thing. And what happens here is that we bring Birth of a Nation into it.
Right.
The fact that Woodrow Wilson indeed did have a screening of Birth of a Nation in the White House when it came out. Apparently it was the first movie ever screened in the White House.
And strangely enough, it did a trailer on the movie too.
Yeah, the Nate Parker movie. That's it's the Nat Turner story.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is the D.W. Griffith movie. And they're very upset that it was the first movie to play in the White House. So we get images of Woodrow Wilson and his crew, reenactments out the asshole, watching Birth of a Nation, basically like Hitler was watching Nation's Pride and Inglourious Basterds.
That's what was coming to my mind when you were saying this.
So, bring Tarantino back into it already.
Of course.
But then something amazing happened.
Okay.
For some reason, while Woodrow... And by the way, this is not called upon in the narration whatsoever. This is still... Like I said, I don't think he knows what the fuck footage he has when he's narrating. He just wants us to hear the sound of his voice.
Yep.
He wants to say things in tones to make it sound like he knows exactly what he's talking about and that he has a point. Well, while he's droning on...
This has to have a big payoff.
While he's droning on in his narration, as if he has no idea what's on the screen, the Ku Klux Klan comes out of the screen like they're in Last Action Hero.
Yes.
Gallops across the table and goes out into the White House lawn. And Woodrow Wilson is following them around and just gazing at them in awe as they run around the White House after coming out of the screen and galloping across the table and out the door.
This isn't referenced at all.
Not by anybody. All while his voice is just droning on about something in the narration. I was like, dude, would you mention what the fuck you're doing here? Would you say something about what you're conveying with this weird-ass imagery?
I think he had a script, and he was basically just reading it just robotically, and they were going to put whatever they want on the screen.
And I think when you go back to America and stuff like that, I think this guy, like, wants to make actual movies. Mm-hmm. Like, actual period movies.
Yeah.
Like I said, he tries to make Andrew Jackson out to be in 12 Years a Slave. There's a scene out of Amistad.
Yep.
There's the Al Capone shit. And it's like, I think this guy just has this dream to make period really, 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 really shitty versions of pre-existing period movies. He just doesn't have the money. So he just uses might as well be.
Yes.
Political propaganda to force this stuff on us. And it's...
Okay.
And yeah, there is a point in time where he's talking about the Democratic Party, and he uses the word propaganda. And just to hear the word propaganda come out of this guy's mouth with no irony is a marvel. I don't even know how to take that. But there's more.
I want to talk about Rock.
So, where
Please
he himself talked enough about Rock.
I want to talk about Rock and how he got busted. This is great.
So anyway, now of course the idea is that we talked about not just Birth of a Nation, but we talk more about the Ku Klux Klan, particularly in 1868.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, the idea is that the Democratic Party is the start of this. Democratic is the reasons for the Ku Klux Klan, and they're going to kill the world. They're going to steal America should they get elected. This year, in 2016, the Ku Klux Klan will, in fact, take over the world. But here's the thing, though, is the reenactments with the Klan and stuff like that. Like, the scenes in Free State of Jones is basically what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
This just sidetracks the movie and takes over for a really long time. Like, after a while, he never has a point. But when he seems like he's, like, trying to head in a direction by bringing something up, he just stays there. And the movie just becomes something else entirely until he was like, oh, wait, politics. Democratic Party sucks. Let's go back over here now. Yeah, racism sucks. Vote for the other guy. Because racism sucks. But let's keep going. And I don't understand... That's the problem, too, is that... I feel like no matter what your outlook is, it is just insanity that this guy does not realize how much of a punchline he is.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing about this guy that isn't a complete and total joke.
You were telling me about him, Bill Maher had him on his show and he just destroyed him.
Yeah, and the dude is just completely...
Oblivious?
Yeah, he is just... There is not even an ounce of self-awareness. This guy, the way the guy films himself, just being a victim and looking out into the American sunsets.
Reading his book.
The profile of his silhouette, just there. Yeah, talking about his own books. That's what it says. Like, the movie says, like, written by him, directed by him, based on the books by him. He is a real-life Wayne Gale. It is insane.
Oh my god, you're right. I was going to make the Tyler Perry reference, but you're right.
Remember the Natural Born Killers? When the show starts, it's Downey doing the karate moves, and it says produced by Wayne Gale, written by Wayne Gale, based on the books by Wayne Gale, directed by Wayne Gale.
Oh my god, it is Wayne Gale. Holy crap.
Oh my god. That was a hilarious parody that Downey was doing.
Right.
Of this type of behavior. In 1994, we've brought Tarantino back into this again.
Of course.
So anyway, it's not one of his movies unless we're bashing Obama. So let's talk about Obama for a second. Yeah. In fact, let's not just talk about Obama. Let's talk about a moment in his childhood. Let's go way back. Because this has something to do with anything. So, we have audio of Obama telling a story, which is kind of a heartwarming story.
Mm.
Obama's telling this story, which I think he used this story in the other movie, too.
Probably.
Whatever.
He does a lot of retread. He doesn't have anything else.
God. So anyway, Obama's telling this story about how when he was in school... This all has reenactment, by the way.
Yeah, it does.
Like everything else. When Obama was in school, he used to, tell little fibs to kids about how my dad's a prince. Because, usually you go to school and you say something like, well, my dad's an astronaut. He could beat the shit out of your dad. And
yeah, exactly.
My dad's a firefighter. My dad's a scientist. But really, really outlandish things. Like, those things are, like, in the realm. You just can say really, really outlandish things. Like, my dad's a sumo wrestler or some bullshit.
And then career day, you're screwed. Because you have to back up your boast.
Which is what happened to Obama.
Exactly.
So, Obama's dad is aware of all this. So he shows up as a prince.
It's a work.
And it makes all the kids happy. And it makes Obama look good. And all the kids are like, yeah, your dad's awesome. And he's like, yeah. It was like heartwarming. I would say the kids probably kind of knew. I mean, they were kids. They probably believed it. But I mean, to an extent, it's like, it's not a big deal when they find out, he's a dude. He's just a dude.
I don't think they think Obama's dad's Prince Nana or anything like that.
Well, this movie, and this dude that made this movie, has a big old theory about this moment in Obama's life. This little fabrication that Obama's dad did for the kids to make them happy was Obama's dad teaching him a lesson that he would take throughout his entire life from then on. And that is the lesson of being a liar.
Oh my God.
Obama took that day where his dad pretended to be a prince to entertain the kids.
And he turned into a carny. That's exactly what happened.
And what's the great thing about that is we cut to little Obama happy in the classroom to this Obama silhouette in the White House looking out really, really sinisterly.
With the dooming music too, of course.
So speaking of dooming music and being reenacted to look sinister, let's finally get to the title character.
How long did it take for Hillary to get introduced in the story? It was a while.
He kept bringing it up every now and then, but as far as actually focusing on it, he tried to tackle this at the beginning, or at the end of America, too. Remember?
Yeah.
Sorry. Remember the scene at the end of America when he just sidetracked from everything he was doing to say, hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton was approached in her school cafeteria and was corrupted by guys in the shadows?
I remember that.
Yep. So, let's get to the Hillary is evil portion of the movie now, because that's what Al Capone and slaves were trying to get us to.
Rocking the insurance can.
God.
I want to talk about it so much.
So anyway, well, for starters, not only was Hillary approached in her high school cafeteria and corrupted by the Shadow Man,
Slugworth.
when she got to college, all she did was basically conspire. There are reenactments. Mind you, this is a true story. They said that at the very beginning of the movie. This is a true story. We have reenactments of young Hillary in her dorm room at college, just watching the news and laughing like a mad scientist.
Yeah, it made no sense. I don't think that happened.
Oh, God. But continuing on, Bill Clinton's affairs.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton's affairs and those allegations of, like, sexual abuse. The narrator, the dude that made this movie, this is an exact quote. All that sexual stuff that Bill Clinton did, we're quoting here, exact quote from the movie, was all Hillary's fault.
Oh
and the reason for this, according to this movie, is that she orchestrated all this and was using it as a means for her own benefit. The reenactments kick in once again. We see this woman, this intern or something, limping away while putting her shoes back on, leaving like a presidential limousine in this ratty-ass parking garage. And the next cut, to celebrate this woman limping away after being sexually assaulted in this ratty parking garage, is Bill and Hillary Clinton in the White House, cracking open champagne and celebrating. And dancing in the hallways.
Yeah, that was weird.
But that seems a bit odd, because the reenactment prior to this was how Hillary initially reacted to all the sexual assault she supposedly orchestrated. And that was them walking in a straight line down the White House hallways. I guess this was when Bill was in office. And Bill would look at interns and go, "Hey, baby." And she'd have to cover herself because it's like, oh my god, he's going to sexually attack me. And Hillary's walking right behind him, just smacking things out of people's hands. I swear to God, this happens in a reenactment. This is supposedly what it looked like when the Clintons were last in the White House. And it's going to happen again if you don't make the right choice and vote for the not racist guy. So, we do get proof that Hillary is evil, though. We finally get proof towards the very, very end. Because a woman in tears saw Hillary Clinton once at a speech or something. And what happened? Hillary was just standing there, and she looked so menacing. Evil incarnate indeed. I'm not even going to mention the restaurant scene. That restaurant scene was... oh, God. I won't leave it all to you, but it's... yeah. It's a... Hillary bought a guy dinner once. And I gotta tell you...
This is great.
I gotta tell you, she bought a guy dinner once. Just off the street. This eventually will lead to the world going bankrupt. This is how she's going to steal America.
The lunches scam just makes me laugh thinking about it.
So, I just gotta ask. This might be a sensitive topic, but I mean it. Like, I really, really mean it. Dinesh D'Souza is the guy's name.
Yes. The first time you mentioned him in the whole review.
Is there any likelihood this guy has something legit wrong with him? Like, I feel like there has to be something wrong with this guy's head. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny now. In all seriousness.
Like, you think that there may be
this
something
guy has to have a
actually
problem
wrong with him?
There's just no way a real human being would behave this way if they were all there. There's just no way. And I know politics makes people crazy, but...
right.
I mean, this is ridiculous. By the way, much like his other movies, the thing doesn't have a fucking end.
Nope. No, it doesn't.
Once he finally reaches his last point, which I don't even remember what that was, he just eventually reaches a stopping point of his rambling. And then we just reach... and then it's a montage of, whatever America praising song it was. I don't remember. That was Josh Groban, I think.
I'm pretty sure it was.
There's a bunch of American flags waving, and people, with sparklers, and families, and fireworks, and it's just, America is the greatest thing in the world. America. Oh, God. Praise America. Praise America. Oh, this whole song plays out from beginning to end with Praise America imagery. And then we fade out. And then we fade in, and this guy has not had enough of the sound of his own voice. So he comes back, and we just get footage of him walking, and just fucking rambling. Just talking to himself. And then, the movie's not over yet.
No, it's not.
We cut to a small girl on a stage with a giant band. And she very, very slowly sings the Star-Spangled Banner as jets fly, and fireworks go off, and flags wave. Just non-stop for the whole Star-Spangled Banner. And then finally it fades out and the credits roll, but there's more shit going on. I don't even remember what... we were just kind of waiting. We were a little early, so we just watched the credits roll. And it's like the dude just does not have enough of himself. The dude was, while the dude was in jail, they gave him a job teaching English. And then I was like, okay, that's like the first nice thing I've seen him do. He's going to teach people English. But then, he sees these people and he's like, today, I'm going to tell you about America. And it's like, oh, those poor people.
Yeah.
Don't listen to what this guy has to tell you. about this topic, please. So anyway, we cut back to that. And the movie doesn't even end on America's Great America, America, fireworks, jets, flags. As the credits end, the very last credit rolls by, we get one more scene of him in the English class, and it's a freeze frame on him smiling that we fade to black on. I swear to God I am not making this up.
It's true.
That is what this movie is. Yep. The end. There's a whole lot of stuff there in the middle, too, that is not related to fucking anything. That is just him talking and talking and talking. It's not even about this topic.
No. I like the reenactment where the guy gets bludgeoned with a cane. We've seen that a couple times.
So, that's your political propaganda for the year.
Hopefully.
Please, for the love of God, in one place or another, lock this guy the fuck up, but this time, please, for the love of God, make it forever.
Don't let him out this time.
This guy is not useful to the world. This guy has no use for anything. This is what he does. This is his life. When he's not making movies about it, he's writing fucking books.
I just think even if you may feel the way he does, he tells his story in such a horrible manner that you don't want to feel that way. I was saying,
no matter where you're coming from, the guy's a joke.
Yeah.
He is a joke to everybody, except the people he's interviewing. But half the time, you don't even see the people he's interviewing because he wants the camera to focus on him doing this.
How much he hates Matt Damon, too. Don't forget about that.
Alright, we're done with this.
Speaking of that, we are done with this. So ends another edition of AJ's Movie Reviews. Thank you for everyone still around. We appreciate that. We're going to do a couple star amounts real quick. Star Trek Beyond.
2.
Lights Out.
2.5.
Ice Age Collision Course.
2.
And Hillary's America.
I guess 1.
You don't give... -5 stars! Which I know is what you want to say right now. This is
another one of those cases, though. It's like religious movies, where when we get to the point of doing a worst of the year list, I'm not even going to bother because this might as well not even be an actual movie. It's just some dude's insane, psychotic rambling.
So basically what you're saying is Dinesh D'Souza doing a religious movie is probably your personal hell. Alright. So that ends another edition of AJ's Movie Reviews. Next week we're going to be doing Nerve, Jason Bourne, and Bad Moms. And who knows, maybe some limited releases. I guess we'll find out. Versus this week comes at you on Sunday. Cryptic Comment is Knockout. And next week, Cryptic Comment is actually going to be Justice System. So that's a special surprise for you guys. Check out our Facebook fan page under Popcast Network. Zazzle.com/Popcast Network for merchandise. Twitter @Popcast Network. And that's what we've got for this week. So check out the remaining stuff here on the Popcast Network this weekend. Got some stuff coming your way. A lot of wrestling. We got Battleground coming up on Sunday. Raw on Monday. Wednesday is normal as Wednesday. So more Sip and Snack. A lot of good stuff coming. So stay tuned. So that being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. AJ, any parting words?
That's it.